Hello, everyone. My name is Erin Prendergast, and I'm here at the Art Gallery of Ontario. Thank you for joining us on this talk today, and I hope you're all safe and well. I am really thrilled to welcome my guest, Mike Hendren, who is Vice President of the Ontario region of the Nature Conservancy of Canada. The Nature Conservancy of Canada is Canada's leading national land conservation organization. It's a nonprofit that partners with individuals, corporations, foundations, Indigenous communities, governments to protect our most important national treasures, and that is the areas that sustain Canada's plant life and wildlife. NCC secures properties through donation or purchase or other kinds of agreements and manages them for the long term. And since 1962, NCC and its partners have helped to protect 35 million acres coast to coast to coast through our wonderful country of Canada. Mike has a deep background in conservancy. He formerly led the Kawarthas Land Trust as executive director and recently completed 2 terms as chair of the board of the Ontario Land Trust Alliance. Welcome, Mike. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Great to be here. I don't need to be here. I think you've got this covered.
You totally need to be here. So thank you again for taking some time out of your day.
Pleasure.
I'll just quickly say that the format for the Zoom talk is that Mike and I are going to share 5 images of paintings by a group of 7 painters that are in the collection of the Art Gallery of Ontario. And then Mike is going to talk about some local conservancy efforts that have taken place generally in those areas. So we're going to go through about 5 amazing group of 7 paintings that I'll just put on the screen now, and I'll say something briefly about them, and then Mike can take it from there. So Mike, this first painting is a very iconic work by Tom Thompson called The West Wind. Tom Thompson, although technically not really part of the group of 7, because sadly the group formed after he passed away. This was painted in 1917, the year that he passed away. He was a very avid outdoorsman, and this work was painted in Algonquin Park. Really, it's a symbol of Canada and of our identity, signaling both strength and resilience. So Mike, what do you have to tell us about conservation efforts around this area?
Well, a few things. I guess first off, I should say I'm sitting here on the shore of Clear and the confluence of Clear and Stony Lake in the heart of the Kawarthas, and I do have a white pine directly behind me.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It was poorly limbed at one time, not by me. I'm not going to take responsibility for that, but obviously the pine tree and white pines and the Canadian Shield are iconic for us in Canada, and certainly it's a heart of Ontario as much as or more than any other province. Here where I sit, we're about a half a kilometer where the limestone plain and the St. Lawrence lowlands hits the Canadian Shield. So I feel fortunate. This is a place I get to spend a lot of time at. But and as you go north, so much of the Canadian boreal is in that landscape, and Algonquin is such an extraordinary part of the conservation parks and conservation system, I guess, of Canada, and certainly of Ontario, being one of the first in a very significant site in Ontario and near southern Ontario, where most Canadians, most Ontarians, and a third of Canadians live. So it's a very important part. And I guess the Nature Conservancy of Canada it has been a close partner with Ontario Parks, who owns and manages Algonquin Park. And we've been part of expanding the park system now since our inception almost 60 years ago. And really the organization's goal was to recognize that the government can't do it all, and that there is a role for private organizations and working with individuals to expand protected areas. The Algonquin to Adirondacks region is the larger corridor that Algonquin Park sits within, and NCC has had a pretty heavy role in that area over many decades. In particular, in the last couple decades, we've been focused in the Frontenac Arch, which is southeast of Algonquin, and is an important area that spans through the Thousand Islands into the Adirondacks in the United States. It's an important corridor for migrating birds, bats, insects, animals that need large ranges to survive and thrive, like fisher, black bear, moose, eastern wolf, a few examples. And in the Frontenac Arch, we have approximately 7,000 acres, or that's about 2,700 hectares, if you prefer the metric system, of lands that we've secured, and we manage those ourselves. And then there's about another 7,300 acres, or nearly 3,000 hectares that are protected that we've helped others protect, that are now part of Frontenac Provincial Park or Charleston Lake Provincial Park, which are also wonderful examples, smaller versions in many ways of Algonquin, but important sites that get close to the border. So that's been our primarily work in Ontario, and we continue to be active there. We just closed on 2 donations and partial donations of land in the heart of the Frontenac Arch later last year, and we've got several more on the radar. So we're active there. We're actively raising support in the communities there and beyond to continue to contribute to this important landscape in Ontario.
That's amazing. Congratulations on the recent work there. I personally have very fond memories of experiencing Algonquin Park over summers. And I have to say, I've seen a fisher, I've seen a black bear, and I've heard a wolf. So that's all very positive. Yes. Yeah. I know that there are very rare sightings. And when I first saw it, I thought it was a small, maybe baby black bear, until I saw its tail. Right. So that was very cool. Okay, so we'll move on to our next image, and this is by J.H. MacDonald, who was a founding member of the Group of 7, and this is Montreal River in Algoma. MacDonald was very fond of doing his famous boxcar rail trips to Algoma. Now, I have actually done that. I've taken the special Algoma train ride with my brother years ago through the interior to see the fall colors. Have you ever done that?
No, I haven't, but I've spent a little bit of time in that country. I have friends in the Cobalt area, so I get a chance to get up to that part of Ontario, and certainly traveled up the north shore of Lake Huron and into Superior Country. It's that's a pretty beautiful, fantastic landscape. It's pretty far north for a lot of people, but it's actually not even in the center of Ontario yet. There's a lot more to go. So it's north of North Bay and north of Temagami, Montreal River. It's an area that's quite well known for its older growth pine forest. It's not an area that we've done a lot of work to date. Our space, 87% of Ontario is Crown land, and so managed by the province. And so our focus has been primarily in southern Canada, where it's majority private lands, working with private landowners to help them contribute to conservation. But we are certainly now very ambitiously and actively moving into this area. We're working with several families and several companies that are in the forestry sector who have an interest in conservation and what working for us, but also putting parameters around that. So we have a special tool called a conservation easement agreement, which can be a permanent agreement. And it provides tax benefits as well to the donor of that. And it puts certain parameters around the long-term management of the land. So that's something we're looking at in that neck of the woods. And I'm looking forward to spending more time there. And certainly with climate change and a changing world, a changing climate, we know that some species will be will continue to move north, and we need to be more active in those landscapes. And again, it's not an area that where the government is going to be able to be solely responsible for managing and improving our land base. We need other partners. So we think it's a great space for us. And I haven't been on the Montreal River, but it's on my list. So hoping to make it there eventually.
Well, that's very nice that you've been able to spend some time there. And I do really recommend to those who love experiencing nature, there is this wonderful rail ride through Algoma that one can take. It's very memorable and special. So I encourage people to check that out. All right, so now we're moving to Lake Superior. And these next two works are by Lauren Harris, who is probably one of the best known, if not the best known, members of the Group of Seven. And he is also known for his painting, which comes across as his almost mystical connection to nature. So this painting and the next one feature the region of Lake Superior, and here we're looking at the water. What are your thoughts on this area of Ontario?
Well, I have a lot of thoughts here. You described it as mythical. I think that's fantastic descriptor for this piece and for what it represents. Lake Superior is extraordinary. It's larger by volume than all the other Great Lakes put together. I believe that the indigenous name is Gitchagumi, as put properly explained to us in the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald folk song that I'm very familiar with. Lake Superior is an amazing place, deep, cold lake, a place that many Canadians and many Ontarians, I think it's fair to say, have never visited, or if they do, maybe once in a lifetime. It's worth the trip.
Yes.
I've had a chance twice, and actually, at least pre-COVID-19, my family and I had a plan to make our way back there this summer. We still hope to do that. It's extraordinary, and it's spiritually and aesthetically beautiful, but it follows that it's also ecologically quite significant. It's a lake that when the other Great Lakes were not under ice during different ice ages, Lake Superior still was. So it is very different than the other Great Lakes in many ways. NCC has been pretty active there. We have more than 15,000 acres, which is a lot of space along primarily the North Shore.
Right.
And places like Big Trout Bay, that is southwest of Thunder Bay, heading towards the border to Duluth, Minnesota. And that has a fantastic new trail as of last fall. That's open as one of our nature destinations. I have climbed it myself. It is worth it. Spectacular views.
Did it look more like this?
Well, you need to see the water in the background, but it looks, yeah. So it's Big Trout Bay and Black Bay as well, in the Black Bay Peninsula. And of course, many people who know about Thunder Bay or visited there know about the giant provincial park. Puckasaw National Park on the northeast shore, Lake Superior Provincial Park are all extraordinary places. Beautiful sand beaches, but very cold water. Yeah,
I have really great memories, Mike. When I graduated from my undergrad at Western at university, I did a summer of tree planting with one of my brothers. And we were situated from time to time in the Thunder Bay area. So had these great views out to the lake and out to Sleeping Giant Island, and then went a little north from there up to Nikina. But it is really a beautiful part of our province and country for sure. I mean, it's just awe-inspiring. And yes, the water is very deep and cold. Okay, so our next image is a work by Arthur Lismer, who has a special sort of place at the Art Gallery of Ontario because he used to teach art classes here. at the AGO, and he would take students often out to Grange Park, just on our south entrance. So we have some great archival photos of Arthur Lismer teaching young kids art. So he really is known as a visionary art educator. And in the 1920s and 30s, he summered at a cottage on McGregor Bay, which is, I believe, part of Anishinaabe territory. It's an archipelago on the north shore of Lake Huron, surrounded by quite lush forest. And you really get the sense of lushness by looking at this work. What do you think about this one?
I love it. I love the denseness, the diversity of color. It reminds me of being, deep in the boreal, really anywhere in Ontario and other parts of Canada. I've been fortunate to visit McGregor Bay several times myself. It's a wonderful place. It's not as far north as Lake Superior if you live in Southern Ontario, as I do. But also very beautiful. It's another place where the limestone plain meet the Canadian Shield. There's some wonderful features there. Manitoulin Island is a very special place. It's home to a number of Indigenous communities, and we've been fortunate to be active there for a number of years, both in Manitoulin and neighboring Cobourg Island. We actually own about 60% of Cobourg Island now.
Wow.
Which is about 26,000 acres of land. It's a fantastic place, and we have a great relationship there. I like your hat, Erin.
Well,
I should have had mine on.
I've come back and I've put my Nature Conservancy cap on, just in the final few moments of this.
Sure.
I didn't mean to stop you though, Mike. What were your final thoughts about the Georgian Bay area?
Well, certainly, Manitoulin Island and eastern Georgian Bay coast, the entire area has been one that we've been quite active on, and we have a number of sites, including a large property that is actually, we own it, but it's a part of Ontario Provincial Parks' holding. And I'm going to attempt to say the name of it, although I probably won't do it justice. So it's actually called Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, Mnindu Minising Park, and it's managed by Ontario Parks, and it's pretty neat. So we have about 33,000 acres or 13,000 hectares in Manitoulin Island archipelago, which includes nearby McGregor Bay, and then the eastern coast of Georgian Bay is also been an important area for us for some years. And there's a very active, one of Canada's leading land trusts, the Georgian Bay Land Trust, is a good friend of ours, and they're very active there as well. So we partner with them, and currently we're working on a project to remove invasive Phragmites, which you may recognize as, it kind of looks like cattails on steroids. It's a very tall weed, but it has a very dense root structure, and it can be quite a problem for a number of reptiles and things that nest in these areas. So Georgian Bay is beautiful. It's had a lot of fluctuating water levels in recent years, and it has a lot of conserved areas, but so our focus has really been on stewarding some of those lands and helping others to manage their properties on Georgian Bay, more so than acquiring new lands in recent years. So that's our focus of conservation. Yeah, another wonderful.
That's incredible. And I do have to say, as an Ontarian and someone who lives in this province, thank you very much for all the work that you and your colleagues are doing to conserve plant life and wildlife. I think that obviously we're doing this Zoom talk because we're all faced with this pandemic. And I do think that we'll come out of this pandemic with an even greater appreciation for the nature that surrounds us. And hopefully that will inspire people to take more action against things like climate change. Nature Conservancy does incredible work. As you can see, I'm a supporter. I encourage everyone to look at the natureconservancy.ca website for more information about current efforts in Ontario and across Canada. And at the AGO, we are continuing to provide lots of incredible content on our website as we are closed publicly. So if you're interested in hearing more of these talks or seeing more amazing art or learning how to make art, please go to ago.ca. So Mike, I just would like to say thank you so much again. And I love your backdrop, and it looks like a beautiful sunny day out there. So now you can go out and enjoy it. So thank you again very much.
Thank you, Erin. Thank you for your support, and it's wonderful.
You're welcome. Take care.